Okay, so Saul Alvarez is facing Josesito Lopez this weekend for the WBC World Light Middleweight title. From a pure boxing standpoint, when I first looked at this fight, I'm thinking, actually, this is quite a competitive fight. This is quite good from a boxing standpoint, because I think Josesito Lopez is not a bad boxer at all, really, and could be quite competitive in the fight, and perhaps cause Saul Alvarez some problems. Then you have to look at the weight of the fight. It's at 154 pounds, and it's my understanding that Josesito Lopez has never officially fought at anything more than around 144, 145 pounds. That's essentially a 10-pound weight jump here. That's pretty much more than one weight class in jump that Josesito Lopez is making for this fight. This has been mentioned in some other videos, and it's something that I was thinking myself. That this is going to have a factor in this fight. It's going to play something. It's going to play out to do with the weight. I think that the problem Josesito Lopez is going to have in this fight is that Saul Alvarez is going to be able to perhaps walk through his punches, and Josesito Lopez is going to have a difficult time gaining respect from Saul Alvarez with his punch power, and then Saul Alvarez is going to perhaps take over. That's why I'm predicting Saul Alvarez to win by stoppage in round 9. Now, Josesito Lopez has 4 losses on his record, on his resume. However, I'm really sceptical of early career losses over like 4 rounds. I mean, Josesito Lopez lost a 4-rounder by unanimous decision earlier in his career. I'm very sceptical of them. If you're having a bad night, it's very easy, all too easy, to lose a decision over 4 rounds, 6 rounds, these type of things early in a fighter's career. So I don't place too much stock in those. The other 3 he's lost have been a majority decision and 2 split decisions over 10 rounds and 12 rounds, I think. I'm not quite sure, but a high number of rounds. One thing this tells you is that Josesito Lopez is always competitive in his fights. Even when he's lost, he's always tried to give as good as he's got, and he's always been competitive till the end. From my knowledge, I can't remember, I don't recall Josesito Lopez being put down in a fight. So another thing is here, perhaps it's maybe bold for me to say that Saul Alvarez is going to stop this guy late on. However, like I said, I do think the weight is going to play into this factor. I think sometimes you have to. I've learned over the years where I've been doing these predictions, giving these thoughts on YouTube, not to underestimate outside factors, what I like to call outside factors, and the weight is one of those factors for me. It's a big issue, and in this fight, I think that Josesito Lopez will succumb to the weight difference. Looking at Lopez, when I first looked at him, I thought this guy throws too many wide punches for my liking, meaning he's looping his shots. It's always better to see a boxer throwing straight punches. They're quicker to get to the target, and they have a lot more difficult to get away from, and they do a lot of damage. I actually think Lopez can throw good straight punches, but from the outside. When you get inside, it's very tempting and very difficult not to throw looping shots to get around to the target. You can try and throw the shorter shots, which are very effective, but Josesito Lopez, often the way he fights and the fights he's been involved in have been some tear-ups, and he's been close to his opponent, so he's thrown a lot of looping shots. But if you watch him when he sort of has got a bit of distance, a bit of a gap has become evident, then he has thrown a few good straight shots, something which I would personally like him to work on, and I think it's something that can be important going forward with him. The problem is Saul Alvarez, for me, throws very good straight shots. It's something I think is a good trademark. Is he got a good jab and a straight right, and he's very throws good power punches with those. They do a lot of damage. They're quite concussive. And later on into the fight, when those start building up, that's when I'm expecting them to take their toll on Josesito Lopez. Lopez, I think personally, he would do well to get up close in this fight. I think whether he invites Alvarez on, which I wouldn't really advise, I prefer him to go forward a bit, try and get more inside, and then try and war it out with Alvarez. The problem is, again, the weight issue. Alvarez is going to probably be a bit stronger than him, and Alvarez trying to walk through his punches is not going to be easy. This is a guy who's been punching at this weight for some time, and he's a world champion at this weight. We've seen what he's been doing to guys. I think also Canelo's hand speed is underrated. I say this in every video about Saul Alvarez. I think his hand speed underrated. I think he's actually got very good hand speed, and I think the reason being it's not so much speed but also technique, because he throws a lot of straight punches. I think, you know, they look quicker because they're straight. And you throw looping punches, they always look a bit slower. Straight punches are quicker to the target, and I think that's something that he does very well. It looks quicker, and it is quicker because it's more effective. In this fight, like I say, I'm just expecting maybe it to be competitive early on, because Josesito Lopez is always good at staying competitive, like I say. Maybe for the first half of the fight to be competitive. But then as the fight goes on, I'm expecting him to struggle to get that respect off Saul Alvarez with his power, and I'm expecting Saul Alvarez to be able to walk through Josesito's artillery and be able to start throwing those straight punches of his own and get closer to Josesito Lopez and end up finishing the job with a good display of some punching power. So that's my take on the fight. They're my thoughts on the fight. Unfortunately for Lopez, I think that the weight plays a big factor in this fight. Apart from that, from a boxing standpoint, I would have said maybe brought some other things in. Josesito Lopez could perhaps get closer if they were both, you know, at a bit of a lower weight and both more natural at that weight. Perhaps could take this inside and try and war it out with Alvarez like he did with Victor Ortiz and come out on top. But I don't think it's going to play out like that. I think Alvarez is going to impose the weight on this fight. I think he's going to take a late stoppage victory. Bear in mind, however, when considering this fight, although I've called it as a late stoppage, that Josesito Lopez hasn't been stopped before. Like I said, I don't recall him being put down. And he's been in there with some guys who are able to put you down. So bear that in mind, that Alvarez is going to have to really do a job to get this guy stopped. So they're my thoughts. Please let me know what you guys think on this fight. This is Box Bread, and I'm out.